All right.
I guess I'm introducing today.
Yeah, you just. Yeah,
okay. So we're back, and we're with a reoccurring guest, Mance Rayder. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself again for new people.
I'm Mance Rayder. Hi.
Hey. That's it. I need to know.
I'm putting I'm putting this out on Facebook real quick. So go ahead. I just want as many people to check it out.
So we just recently we were having some I guess if you want to call it discussions with feminists. You know,
wow.
about you know how because I tweeted out that I think that third wave feminism is basically their end goal is to make women as ugly as possible. It's basically what I said. Cool, you know, whatever. And that's been getting me some traction. Yeah,
I bet.
yeah. Okay, so I tweeted, I'm convinced that the main goal of third wave feminism is to make women into bitch ass ugly gargoyles.
It's subtle. I mean,
comment.
Third wave. I mean, we may be on third wave now. We could be to like Z wave or something like that. It's feminism before any. When I think about it, when I think about modern feminism, especially Twitter feminism, social media feminism, I'm thinking of basically women that want to destroy men. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is there's no place in their life for men. At least that's what they would say publicly. What do they look like? All you have to do is look at the college campuses and see there's some great collages that people have done of before and after photos of girls who go to college and what they look like on the day they leave college and what they look like, some of them on the last day of freshman year. And they look like they've gone from the prom queen to, you know, gargoyles or friggin' Morlocks. I don't understand how it's empowering to make yourself look ugly. The only way that could, the only logic, and it's not logical, the only explanation that I can think of is that that's what the patriarchy wants you to be. It wants you to be pretty. It wants you to be stupid. So I'm going to make myself ugly. I'm going to make myself smart. I don't know how they think they're smart. I mean, they don't have an argument. Everything is emotion with them. So, I mean, I just think it's damaging. I think it's damaging to everybody. I think it's damaging to society because, I mean, some of these witches will get out of college and maybe get jobs in HR and, you know, fuck some companies up, you know, make their hiring practices, make their, employee behavior, you know, the things you have to sign. I had to sign it with the company that I work with, that I'll act a certain way. And if somebody requests that I call them by something that I don't think they are, I have to, or else I get fired. So, yeah, I mean, I talk about it in my book. I think there's a really dangerous ideology. And, you know, I know that, you know, as a libertarian and as an anarchist, I'm not supposed to care what a private company thinks. Well, just because I think all interactions should be voluntary, that doesn't mean I get to shut the fuck up. You know, I can still have an opinion. You know, I mean, if you don't have an opinion, you're not human. You're not intelligent. You should have an opinion on everything. And just because I think that company should have the power to hire and fire anybody doesn't mean that I don't get to criticize it.
What do you think of, I get this argument all the time that libertarians shouldn't care about certain things because, we're just supposed to let everyone do as they please. But for me, it's like, if I don't have an opinion on anything, it's like what you said, then you're not, like, you still have an opinion without forcing it on people.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to answer that because I don't believe people should live however they want to live. I mean, if they're hurting somebody else's person or property, I can step in and I can stop that. And I can use as much force as needs to be to stop it, even if it's your property. You know, it doesn't have to be my property. That doesn't make any sense that I shouldn't care. I mean, if a pharmaceutical company is basically, you know, a pharmaceutical that it could be world changing, has to hire, you know, the best people won't go there because their practices and their hiring practices are so strict that people don't even want to work for them, even if they're the highest paying, and they're getting the second or the third choices. I mean, and if that medication could help a lot of people, including me, I mean, I think I should have an opinion about that. I think all this garbage that we're seeing, you know, attacks. And I was telling someone yesterday that in the 60s on college campuses, you had anti-war and free speech protests. You know, they were protesting against the war and you know, advocating for free speech. Now on the college campus, they don't know anything about the 14 different wars that are actually going on, and they don't want free speech. And it's dangerous. I mean, these people are going to graduate, and some of them actually might get jobs. You know, some of them, I assume not all of them are getting women's studies degrees. You know, some of them might actually get an a degree in HR or something like that, and then they can go in and totally fuck a company up. So instead of fucking up McDonald's or Starbucks because they can't get a job with their degree.
Well, I mean, you can kind of say that maybe Starbucks are fucking themselves up with the whole racial bias training.
Well, I mean, it's Seattle. It's based out of Seattle. What do you expect? I mean, that city has been cucked for a long time.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, you know, I'm sure, like, you know, like you were talking about, I guess, back in the day, or whatever you want to call it, you know, back in the 60s, where there was that different movement, you know, anti-war and free speech. And, you know, and I'm sure there a lot of the women were, you know, also wanting, you know, hey, we're, you know, working with you and all stuff, whatever. But now, today, it's ridiculous. It's almost like, you know, like a child is almost like the worst thing that can happen as a woman. Oh, are you having a kid? Oh no, no, I don't want that. That's terrible. Okay, well that's your choice. I mean, you don't want to have a kid, fine, but don't try and act like that's like the worst thing that can happen. Because a lot of moms out there are like, no, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Before I was like that, but once I had that kid, it changed my life.
Well, I mean, if that's somebody's default reaction, then you know, it's just conditioning. You know, they've been suffering conditioning for a long time. And if a woman gets pregnant and she struggles with it, and you know, tries to figure out if she can raise it, if she can afford it, this and that. I'm personally anti-abortion, but I mean, I never talk about it because it's one of those issues that everybody wants to talk about, but it's like guns. You know, they could pass all the laws they want in the world saying you can't have guns, and we're still going to have guns. We could pass all the anti-abortion laws, and they're still going to have abortions. So, you know, it's a very complicated subject. But I mean, I've personally known women who use abortion as birth control. I mean, it's basically, you know, I mean, I've known women who've had 4 or 5, 6 abortions before they're 30 years old. You know, and I mean, I think it's horrible, and I think you know, I know for a fact it's just their default. I got pregnant, I'm going to have an abortion. I'm not going to think about it. You know, it's just, you know, it's just something I need to get out of me. It's a sickness. That's a problem. I mean, I don't, you know, a woman who gets pregnant and struggles with it and really thinks about it and waits, and you know, I mean, I have some sympathy there for them. You know, especially if their ideology is, damn it, you know, what do I do here? You know, it's the women who automatically know what they're going. Oh, I got to get this clump of cells out of me as soon as possible. I mean, that just. I don't know. I don't know how you look back. I'm not one of these people who likes to look back in history, and I absolutely hate conservatism because they're always looking to the past for a golden age that never existed. But have to look back and wonder what some of the more enlightened civilizations of the past would actually think about, women just, the same woman 4 or 5 or 6 times in a 10-year span, just going in and having her, having a baby sucked out of her, vacuumed out of her. I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, man, that's a complicated subject, and it's contentious, and it's one that I try to stay out of. Maybe every once in a while I'll post a meme about Planned Parenthood or something like that, but it's something I really don't normally like to engage in. But I mean, you asked, so I told you.
Well, it's kind of like with Planned Parenthood and how the right are so anti-Planned Parenthood. It's kind of, and then with the left so anti-NRA. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's like the one organization that each side latches onto. See, this is terrible. We need to do something about it, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they can say all that they want, that they're for family planning, but I mean, we know where their bread and butter is.
You were talking about conservatism always looking, behind, or in the past, and saying it was nice back in the day, right? And then you have the progressives who are like, well, what will it be like 500 years in the future? It's going to be great, or something like that. So
progressives don't think about that.
No,
progressives aren't thinking of the future. I think libertarians and anarchists think more about the future. Progressives are thinking about the future that they can control. They're thinking about how they can seize power and they can mold it into what they want. I don't want to seize power. I want all power to disappear. I want to see what happens when people are just unleashed, when, the great minds of our time, like a Satoshi Nakamoto, or if Tesla was alive today, I'd want to see what they could do without any government regulation, without all the corporatism that you see. Progressives don't care about that. Progressives care about carbon, stopping carbon from getting into the atmosphere, where a friggin' volcanic eruption puts more carbon into the atmosphere than, puts 1,000 times more carbon into the atmosphere than they could have possibly saved in the last 30 or 40 years of the Earth Day movement. That's what progressives are looking for. They're looking for control. They're looking to control thought. Conservatives, I don't know what the fuck they're looking. They're not really looking to they're looking to the past. And I think we're the only ones who are actually looking to the future and, trying to make a better future. And I think the only way to make a better future is to start getting people to question power structures, and having people want to see power taken away from those who have it right now. And I mean, that's the hardest part, is people are friggin' cowards, and they think that they can't live without a government. They think they can't live without the local police, and the local police aren't going to save you if someone breaks down your door. They'll show up just in time to identify your body and clean it up and get it to the morgue. That's what I mean. Conservatives, progressives, and liberals, they're equally awful. I hate when people call libertarians or anarchists conservative. That is one of my pet peeves, man. Conservatism is a Stone Age ideology.
Do you think conservatives like nowadays are more nihilistic because they're kind of thinking of like, well, it used to be good in the past, but even if it wasn't, but then they're just saying like, well, now it's just freaking sort of shit.
Oh, I mean, you know, what does Michael Malice say? Conservatism is progressivism driving the speed limit.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, 10 years ago they were fighting against. They would do anything to stop gay marriage, and now gay marriage, you know, is one of their platforms. And you have National Review, I think, just did an article about you know, you have quote unquote libertarian publications talking about universal basic income, and you have classic conservative things like National Review writing articles on transgender rights and stuff like that. I mean, they're just awful. I mean, I find so. I mean, when it comes down to it, the only thing that I probably have in common with conservatives is my thoughts on gun rights, but they don't even have that right, because if their cop buddies showed up to the door to take them, they'd give them to them. Or if the cops show up here to take them, it's probably not going to be a talk. You probably won't see me ever again. And it's just, I mean, conservatives are just cucks. I mean, they are the ultimate fucking cucks. I mean, they talk about freedom, they talk about liberty, and then, you know, what do? They back the police, the friggin' strong arm of the state. You know, the law enforcers who are there when you leave your house. You know, at least the feds would have to show up. You know, they'd have to plan, they'd have to show up, and you know, it'd probably take them months. But no, these scumbags can show up, you know, in an hour, you know, and destroy your whole life, if not end it. You know, so anybody who I can't even associate with people who like the police, who, you know, who back the blue. I mean, you people are fucking idiots. I mean, just think, fucking think. God.
I'm sure you've seen the video circulating around, but did you see that video about the girl who she had the breathalyzer test on the New Jersey beach, and then she was attacked by the police after?
Sure. Yeah, because there was nobody in that vicinity who was being, you know, there was no violent crime happening anywhere else. You know, it's just the local police, they come up with these laws. And I love these fucking conservatives who are like, well, if you don't like the laws, just elect someone to change them. Really? When do they change laws? When does the state reduce itself? Even if I mean, what happened to the Tea Party movement? All these people got elected to go up there, and they were going to cut back on spending and fight Obama and this and that. And well, what happened? The debt doubled while the Tea Party movement was going on. These people are out of their minds. I mean, they to be able to look at the state and to be able to look at cops like that video on that New Jersey beach, that's just who they are. I mean, think about it. You have these people who want to talk about a free country. Oh, we live in a free country. If a cop comes up to you and tells you to stop, and you know you didn't do anything wrong, you know that I'm just walking to the store. If you do not stop, they have the authority to kill you. And they'll just cry resisting arrest. I mean, you realize there are people that get arrested for just resisting arrest. There's no other charge. Well, yeah, I mean, how do you get arrested just for resisting arrest? You're not guilty of anything else? Well, yeah, if I haven't been doing anything wrong and you come up to me and accuse me of doing something wrong, if I'm walking down the street and my neighbor says, hey, were you just in my yard? I go, no. And I keep walking. Well, if he comes after me, I'm going to beat, I'll beat the shit out of him. Or the cops could show up and, he's done something wrong. But if the cops do it now, all of a sudden it's okay because, we're their fucking hostages. Well, if you just don't do it, just be calm, be calm, get on your knees, do exactly what they say. It's the same fucking thing they tell hostages to do, in a hostage situation. So how are we not fucking hostages? I don't get it. I mean, I know it's depressing, and a lot of times when I get on, I get very depressing, but I talk about a lot of depressing shit, but sometimes depressing shit's the only way to wake people up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really think about this. They just they're like, well, if you don't do anything bad, then the police won't do anything bad to you.
Yeah, and people say too that they're there to protect you, but it's kind of like I think the article that you wrote, I believe it was, I'm pretty sure it was you, where you were talking about like firefighters stay in their in their posts, go around looking for fires, but the police say drive around looking for oh, that person looks suspicious, let's go talk to that person, and then who knows what that could happen, what could happen when they talk to him, or whatever.
Yeah, what is look suspicious? I mean, what's the guidelines for looking suspicious? I mean, think about the stop and frisk program in New York. They could just stop people on the street and start asking them questions and start rifling through their pockets. Ask yourself what kind of human being wants that job and desires that job. And what kind of human being do you have to be that you raise your voice to other adults and then you rifle through their pockets and go through their personal belongings? The person who does that's a complete piece of shit. I mean, they're garbage. They're a garbage human. And they should all be in jail. They belong in jail. But they're here. But 12 to 16 years of government schools are going to teach you that they're heroes and they're here to help. And I'm so glad I wasn't raised with that bullshit. I'm so glad I wasn't. I haven't always been a libertarian, but I've always been taught what the police are exactly there for, and they're there to harass you, and they're there to try and keep you in line, even if you are in line.
So what would you say to people who they're out there wanting to have reform for hold the police accountable for whenever they do something bad or whatever,
Well, first thing I want to know is, what do they want to reform? What do they want to do? I mean, there's no numbers that show that if, say, a black neighborhood wants police reform, so they want black officers. There's black officers in every ghetto in the United States, and shit still is fucked up. I mean, I live in Atlanta. We have the population of the black-white population here is pretty close for the most part, especially around where I live. I don't know many people, white or black, around here who are really fans of the police. I mean, we have some, but you have to go outside of the city more to experience that. I mean, what kind of reform do they want? I mean, they're not. What are they gonna get? I mean, do they think that if they just hire better people, cops? I assume, just like politicians, there's a lot of cops that join thinking that they're going to help people, and then they get in there and realize that that's not what the job is about. They don't even have a mandate to do that. No, they're there to enforce laws. And if they see somebody who's breaking the law, even the smallest law, they are to confront that person. And then they're to, what Rayford Davis calls, they're supposed to build the stop. They're supposed to look for other stuff. Rayford Davis used to be a police officer. He was a police officer in North Charleston for 7 years. Charleston, South Carolina, mind you, is where modern policing was birthed, because where basically U.S. policing was birthed as slave catchers. So, they haven't changed much. They're they treat everyone with suspicion. And I mean, I've seen interviews with cops where they will flat out say that they cannot look at anybody who isn't a cop without suspicion. Well, I mean, how do you? I think I posted up a Chris Rock quote on Twitter. It was either yesterday or today, and it said, Policing is a profession where they have to be perfect, just like an airline pilot. If you say that there's there's a few bad apples. Well, if you have a few bad apple airline pilots, you're going to have planes flying into mountains. Well, it seems like you have a lot of fucking bad apple cops, because people are being killed all the time, and people are being killed in situations where in other countries they don't just kill them. They don't just fear for their life. They don't just shoot their dog. They don't just sick their dog on. They don't just sick a police dog on them. What is it about these other countries where they don't have to, where they can have high crime, but they don't need to kill people, even suicidal people, even people who, are violent? What is it about the United States? I mean, I have my suspicions. I mean, shit, this is a country that you have 3 jobs that they worship. You're taught to worship cops, you're taught to worship the military, and you're taught to worship teachers. Cops in the military, what are their jobs? Their jobs are violence. Military, their job is to kill people and blow shit up. That's the only job of the military, is to kill people and blow shit up. Cops is to enforce the laws violently if you have to. Well, if you have people ask, why are there so many mass shootings? Why is this? How come other countries that have all these guns? Well, it's the culture. Those other countries aren't fucking bootlicking scumbags who are taught from a young age to lick the boots of the military and to, endorse every war. Oh, if the military is getting sent over there, you have to support the soldiers, and it's not possible to be against the wars and be for the soldiers and support the soldiers. Okay, then I don't support either of them. Maybe we live in a culture of violence. Maybe we've created a culture of violence. Maybe we've, through our worship of the military and the worship of police, we've created a culture where some of the people we look up to the most, some of the people that are paraded in front of us before football games, some of the people who are paraded, who are brought before the president so that they can get pins, get pins on their lapels while they're missing body parts. Maybe we need to stop worshiping these people, and maybe we need to start, I don't know, idolizing scientists or people who actually invent stuff, or people who are advancing blockchain technology, things like that. Maybe those are the people we should be looking up to, because since 1812, the United States hasn't fought a war that they actually needed to fight. The United States was invaded in 1812, and they had to fight a war. That war could have also been avoided, but politics came in. But the United States hasn't fought a war since it hasn't fought a war that they needed to fight since 1812. Everything else could have been taken care of politically. So we have all these wars in our history, and we have Veterans Day, and we have Memorial Day, where we're not allowed to say anything bad about the military. We're not allowed to talk about the soldiers who committed the My Lai massacre in Vietnam, but we're not allowed to. Our soldiers are dead. They're to be. They're the most important. You have to revere them, and they need to be remembered. But the soldiers who were fighting for Germany in World War II, weren't they just taking orders too? I mean, shouldn't we be laying wreaths at their graves too? I mean, they were just soldiers following orders. How about the Vietnamese? How about the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong who died in Vietnam? Shouldn't we have a day? I mean, they were soldiers. They were just fighting a war. They were fighting for their homeland. Oh, because it wasn't our home, because it wasn't our team. It wasn't Team A that we have to look at them differently. It's fucked up. Fucked up. And someone just did make a great comment. So we shouldn't idolize anyone. We should be our own hero.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know why we idolize the military, but so do you think, in your opinion, do you think the U.S. is kind of over? Do you think we should be seceding as states? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about this for a while. Dave Smith talks about it a lot. Yeah, he makes good arguments for it. It just, there's no, the idea that one person can be elected and represent 350 million people is absolutely insane. And it's an outdated concept. I mean, it brings me back to a 14-page essay that you can download from Mises.org for free by Hans Hermann Hoppe. It's from 1996. It's called What Must Be Done. And it's basically, he says that, you know, we have to break up into thousands of city-states. We need to get as localized as possible. You know, you look at a country like Norway, okay? The socialists, the national social, not national socialists, but the democratic socialists, Freudian, they're always touting the Scandinavian countries as, you know, oh, look at their socialism. Well, they're not socialists. They've never been socialists. They have some socialist programs, but so do we. But even if they were socialist, Norway has 5 million people. That's 3 million people less than that are in New York City in their whole country. They took the Social Security Fund a bunch of years ago, their version of the Social Security Fund, and they invested it in the oil industry. And when all was said and done at the end, I think it turned out that, like, there was so much money in the Social Security Fund that if they cashed it out, every citizen would have had over $1 million. Wow. Well, you can do that. You can do that in small chunks, and that's what Hoppe was talking about in What Must Be Done. Is the smaller you get, the easier it can manage. Also, the smaller you can get, you know, people in New York City who want to live like animals can live like animals, and you can go there and you can live there and you can live among your own. People down by me who, you know, have a little more independent streak, you know, we can form our own little city and we can have more free markets, and you know, we can strip all these laws away and, you know, run it how we want to run it. I mean, we should have that choice. I mean, humans should all be able to make voluntary decisions about anything, where they want to live, who they want to marry, if they want to have kids, if they don't want to have kids, how many kids they can have. Most importantly is, and this goes back to the bake the cake thing, is who they want to deal with, who they want to have interactions with. And, you know, the problem I have right now is there's no city that I can look at. Well, there's one area of the country I can look at where I would want to live, because I know that there are a lot of people there who share my values, but I don't have the ability to move at this moment, maybe one day, but we should all be able to make the choices to come together and with like-minded people and set up shop somewhere. And there's enough land. I mean, what is it? They say 80% of the population lives within 100 miles of the coast. Yet all that land in the middle of the country. I mean, I know some people, you know, apparently, well, I mean, I don't know if it's that people don't want to live in the middle of the country. It's just that a lot of companies don't want to go there. So people worried about jobs and everything like that, which, you know, makes sense. So, I mean, that's very practical. But, I mean, there's the smartest thing we could do is break up. I mean, think about it. We started this off by you were talking about these feminists who are just absolutely insane. Is there any chance that you could actually sit down with one of them and talk for a year and come to conclusions that, you know, that, I mean, I'd be shocked that you could find one thing in common. Well, there's one guy who's elected who represents both of you. Well, and now, you know, if it was between you and that feminist, he doesn't even represent you or the feminist. The feminist, you know, and you're not going to, and you or me, neither of us three, probably most of the people in the chat don't look at that and go, hey, that's my president. That's my guy. You know, that's the guy who's going to make my life better. And that's horseshit. I tell people that all. That's my favorite thing to tell people when they talk about the president. It's like, oh, how much better is he making your life? Well, that's not what it's about. What's it about then?
Yeah.
What's it about? Then why? Why is he there? You know, I mean, people say, oh, if there was no government, warlords would take over. Well, yeah, at least then most of the population would realize that warlords are in charge. Because right now they don't realize warlords are in charge because they were in government schools for 12 years being told that those aren't warlords. They're being told that those people are in charge. Those people they care about you and they're there to serve you and they're your employee. So yeah, okay, so cool. Let me go tell one of them exactly what I want. Oh, that's not the way it works. How the fuck's that my employee? How's that my employee? It's just shit that we tell ourselves because deep down, I think deep down, most people know this is fucked. You know, that everything's fucked. I mean, before I was even a libertarian, I mean, 10 years before I was a libertarian, I would read about the founders and I'd read about the founding and I'd read about, like, especially from the time that the Revolutionary War ended to when they started having the Constitutional Congress. And I was like, damn, the country looked pretty cool then. It's like, it was almost pure anarchy. I mean, there was no state police. It was, you know, people were living fine and everything. And then they came up with that stupid constitution and just fucked everything up. Yeah. So it's just, man, it's so, you know, it's so outdated. It's such outdated thought that, you know, we need this huge, gigantic government in order to keep us safe. We need this huge, gigantic government in order to regulate things and, you know, make our lives easy, to make sure we're not going to get poisoned by a private company or something like that. And it's the same thing as arguing for, you know, these are the same people that in 1850 it had been like, well, the country can't get along without slavery. How are we going to survive if there's no slavery? The same people.
Yeah, it's funny because we're talking about warlords and all that. It was like nowadays it depends on like what the party is. Like, you know, of course Donald Trump is a Republican, whether he is or not, who knows? But he has that R next to his name. So of course the Democrats or whoever aligns themselves with the Democrats for whatever fucked up reason, they're like, oh, this guy's a warlord or whatever. He's Hitler basically. And then, of course, when Obama was president, all the ones on the R side were like, look at this guy. He's you know, so it really depends. Nowadays, at least, it depends on what party's in charge. And the other party's going to be like, you know, that's the only time they care. Once their party's in charge, it's all thrown out the window. They don't give a fuck anymore. They're like, we're in power now. We're awesome. You're not. Yeah, we can do whatever we want. We're going to make the debt even more high and more laws that don't be needed and more taxes. And all the dumb shit that they're gonna do.
I forget who said it yesterday or where it was, but we were talking about the band NoFX, and we were saying how great a political band they used to be, and then when Obama got elected for 8 years, they didn't do political songs, and now they're doing political songs again. You know, so it's just garbage. I mean, these people take sides. I mean, I don't even really think. I don't even really think that most progressives and liberals hate Donald Trump because he's a Republican. I think they hate him because he's not cool, because he doesn't give a fuck. You know, I mean, you know, Obama was the cool dad, you know, that if you invited your friends over to the house and everything, they could sit down and, you know, and your daddy Obama would be, you know, would laugh with them and wouldn't embarrass you, and might even give them a sip of their beer, you know, give them a sip of his beer. But, you know, Trump would come, you invite your friends over, and Trump's your daddy and everything, you know, and he's there farting and guzzling whiskey and, you know, making jokes about Mexicans and stuff like that, you know, and that's just not a cool dad. I mean, we have to have a cool dad on the world stage, or everybody's going to hate us. Who fucking cares? I mean, I don't even want a president. I think the only thing I like about Trump is that he's entertaining. And you don't know what the hell is going to happen next. And I mean, he's actually done. I mean, he's done some horrible shit. You know, I mean, he's doubled down on some of the stuff that Obama is doing, especially as far as the drone strikes go, and that's just awful. But you know, like he had this one thing that he passed either last week or the week before, where it made it easier to fire federal employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, you know, they have like instead of having a 6-month investigation, it's down to like 6 weeks, and then after the 6 weeks, they can make a decision whether to fire them or not. That's a great thing. I mean, that would seek to reduce government. I mean, obviously somebody else would probably get hired right away, but I mean, it's still, you get scumbags out of there. I'm sure it wouldn't help with the deep state at all and the people who are seated in that power. But he's done, I mean, I guess he's cut some regulations in a couple places, and he has done some things where he's purposely said something that he was going to threaten to do something, and then the other party backed down, and then they were able to get compromise, and a couple foreign policy things. But I mean, all presidents are horrible. I mean, as long as government's in session, government's growing, and your freedom dwindling. So I mean, it's not like you're ever gonna get a good government. I mean, it just really has to go, or reduce it down to as local as possible, so that you actually know where these people live and you can go kill them if they get out of line.
It's like Scott Horton says, whenever a president it comes into power, they always keep their bad promises and break their good ones.
Yeah, that's pretty true. I mean, Trump talked about you know, auditing the Federal Reserve, and there's a bunch of stuff he talked about that he backed. You know, I mean, as soon as he hired Bolton, I was like, you've got to be out of your mind. He's like one of the top 10 worst people that's ever lived in American history. I mean, he's just awful. Well, I don't know if he's in the top 10. I mean, I could think of some worse people, but he's up there. He's up there in those that are to be loathed.
Now, I don't know if this really, you know, if you can read too much into it, but relating to Bolton, I believe he was left out of the talks about North Korea and the summit because he was, you know, he's that guy who was like, no, we need to do something about the, you know, regime change. Apparently it's a scary word for some people. But he's basically a war hawk. So he's like, I want war because I profit off of it. So that's what I want, you know. I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he was left out of those summit talks because they really want this summit to happen between Trump and the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un. And I don't know if the South Korean is going to be there too, but I know for sure they want those two to meet.
Well, I don't think Bolton was brought in for the Koreas. I think Bolton was brought in for Iran. I think Bolton was definitely. I don't think Bolton really gives a shit about North Korea at all. He may, you know, if someone asks him a question, I'm sure he'll make a comment on it, and it's going to be his typical neocon kind of pro-war kind of comment. But I'm sure Bolton was brought in for the Middle East and especially for Iran. So even if he is being left out of the North Korean talks, I'd be worried about what he's doing behind the scenes, talking about Iran and Syria.
So there was this recent development about some of the misgivings during the Obama administration with the Iran nuclear deal. There were some behind the scenes stuff that was happening that I guess the Obama administration lied about in terms of sanctions, or I'm not really sure.
It was secret. Obama basically secretly gave Iran back money that Jimmy Carter stole from them in 1979. In 1979, the United States government under Jimmy Carter annexed billions of Iranian dollars and held them. They were held for years and years. And in order to get this deal done, one of the things that they offered was to give that money back. And I think it's a great idea, but I just don't think they should have kept it secret. See, they did it secretly, and now everybody thinks that, you know, look how much money Obama gave Iran, you know, so they would, you know, he bought his way into this deal. Well, no, that money was stolen from, it was Iran's in the first place. So, I mean, you're just basically, I mean, why is it so, why am I the only one who can look at that and go, okay, one person stole from another person and held it for a bunch of years. Give the fucking money back. I mean, you don't even need a deal in place. Just give them the money back. It's not your money. You stole it. If your neighbor stole your money, you'd want it back. Well, you just give them back the money. I mean, it's just ridiculous that, you know, they, you know, and the right, you know, for as much as the right calls the left fake news, and the right propagates fake news so often. I mean, come on, just saying that this was, you know, Obama gave taxpayer money to Iran. It wasn't taxpayer money. It was actually Iranian money. It was being held for what, 40 years? Wow. It's ridiculous, you know? So, I mean, and from everything that I understand about the Iranian deal, from talking to Scott Horton and talking to Gareth Porter, is that it was the most, you know, especially the nuclear sanctions, it was the most strict deal ever cut, where, you know, they had a heavy water reactor which can actually make plutonium waste, that they poured concrete into. They basically opened up everything for inspections. There wasn't any place in the country where inspectors weren't allowed. You know, and then you have Netanyahu, what, a month ago, you know, giving a friggin' PowerPoint presentation, you know, talking about how, oh, look, they've, you know, it's not even that they're breaking this deal. It's that they've always had nuclear, they've always been working on nuclear capabilities. And it turns out that some of those documents were from 2002. You know, where he's just trying to get, he's just basically trying to get the United States to back them on war in Iran, which they won't even be the one fighting. It'll probably be the United States fighting it. So Iran is and what's funny is Israel and Iran. If you listen to the episode I did with Gareth Porter, he talks about how Israel and Iran have, up until a certain point, were buddy. I mean, we're talking about going into the 90s. They were not buddy, but they had no problems. You know, they worked out problems together. And then when a lot of and I think what Garrett said was, and I'd have to go back and listen to the interview again, was that when a lot of the problems came up with Hamas, because Israel created Hamas, and they started having problems with Hamas, and they started basically, you know, killing the people in Gaza. They needed a distraction, so they created this whole Iran thing, and, you know, then, you know, since you know, 95, you've been hearing that Iran is 5 years away from a nuclear weapon. They're 3 years away from a nuclear weapon. You know, they've been, you know, so many years away from a nuclear weapon now but, you know, nothing's ever materialized. And then you have people you say that on Twitter, and people are like, well, they just do that underground. I'm like, oh yeah, like Saddam. They said he was working on nuclear. He was doing it under his house. I don't know if you remember this. Go back and look at it. They were saying that he was actually had nuclear testing sites, the plutonium sites, the site, like the chemical sites. He was doing it under his palaces. Who the fuck does that under their palaces? Who does that where you live? That's like, oh, I got this problem with this septic tank. It's overflowing, and I can't afford to have someone come out and clean it out. So I'm just going to pour it in the basement. And it's basically the same. I mean, and people buy it. People buy it because they don't think. They don't listen to the right voices either. Even if they don't want to think, they don't listen to the right voices. They turn on the TV or they turn on their favorite talking head, and they think that they're going to get the truth from them. And it's they're just following the party line, whatever their bosses tell them to say. I was talking about that last night with Brian from Lions of Liberty, Electric Liberty Land, that someone like Joy Reid is technically a moron. I mean, she's probably very low IQ. She reads off a teleprompter. If you look at her older writings, she does not write well, and she conned her way into. Most of these people don't know. Dave Smith talks about this. He says he goes on these shows, and he's ready to talk about any subject, and he's ready to go on about any subject for 10 minutes. And he said most of the people on the panel with him, they have 30 to 60 seconds worth of talking points. And if you want to go any further than their talking points, they don't have the knowledge. They're there to spew exactly what whoever is controlling them, whoever is whispering in their ear tells them to say, and that's it. And people listen to them like they're authorities. I mean, if you want to prove to me that you're an authority on a subject, I'm going to have to hear you talk about it a lot longer than 30 seconds or a minute on a panel. I'm going to need to hear you go on. None of these people can go on a podcast. That's why you never hear these people on podcasts, because they can't go on about it. You're never going to see these CNN talking heads that are on the panel of 6 people. You'll never hear. You may hear one of them. You might hear like a Peter Beinart on a podcast. Talking for an hour about a subject. But for most of them, they don't know what the hell they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're just spewing whatever they've been told to spew.
Sound bites.
Yeah.
Memes. They're memes. That's how they talk. They make fun of these people. Make fun of memes. They would. Oh, how can you like memes? And they just spew memes. That's all they are. What is this? 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a meme. Martin Luther's 95 Theses in 1513 nailed to the church door in Germany. That was a meme. Everything's about memes. It's just, is it a good meme or is it not? Does it hit? Is there any truth to it or is there not? It's and most of these people just go out there with these memes that you can, if you fucking Googled or Binged or whatever the hell you want to use, and you did it for 5 seconds, you could realize there's a whole lot more to what these people are. There's a whole lot more of what these people are not saying, but people aren't willing to do that. They're not. Most people are too worried about their fucking kids' soccer game or whatever. So they just accept these people as experts, and it's gospel to them.
Yeah, whenever Dave goes on when he's on the SE Cup show, and whenever foreign policy comes up, it's you're always knowing that they're gonna disagree, because SE your typical conservative. It's funny though, because they agree on a lot of other things, like gun issues and stuff. Domestic, they agree more or less on that. But when it comes to foreign policy, it could be further apart, and it's just. Sometimes I'm like, how is he still on there when they disagree so hard on foreign policy, because you would think if she's the host, she'd be like, I don't want him on there because I know it's like I'm talking to a wall. I'm not gonna get through you, man. We need to do something about Iran. We need to, they think they need these. We gotta do something. And what does Dave say? We should do nothing. And then what does she say next? She goes, oh, I got that on record. So you want to do nothing? Yeah, basically. Nothing.
Well, here's the thing. When you have a show like that, when you have a dissenting voice, the dissenting voice has to be good. If you look at a show like the classic Crossfire, where you had Pat Buchanan and Alan Combs, and obviously Pat Buchanan was coming from the right and Alan was coming from the left. It's unfair, and I think people who do the programming at those news stations realize that if one of those people is much smarter than the other person, people aren't going to tune in. It's just no one's gonna tune in to hear a moron. Unless the whole, unless it's, oh, we have this moron here every day and we're making fun of him or whatever like that, and basically it turns into friggin' like a Sirius XM retard show or something like, fucking Howard Stern or something like that. But, yeah, I mean, they have to, if you're going to have a dissenting voice, that dissenting voice has to be good. And also, if that bills itself as a conservative show, SE Cup is a conservative, so this is a conservative show. If you have someone like Dave on there, who's really well read, but who's going to be opposite on what they would consider to be the most important thing, both sides are going to tune in. Libertarians are going to tune in to see Dave, go after the statists, and conservatives are going to tune in so that they can be upset at the libtard who's there the libtard who's there talking about how we shouldn't care about Syria and how we should just pull out of Syria, and he must be best friends with Assad. They must text all the time. Because that's the argument now. If you're you're not for the war in Syria, so you think Assad's a good guy, right? I heard I think it was someone on CNN said that's David Stockman, and I was just, no, it was Fox. It was actually Fox. It was on Fox Business, and Maria Bartiromo or whatever the whore's name is. But yeah, it was just they're just ridiculous. They can't argue. I mean, some of them don't even, and the reason they do that is because a lot of them are low information on, they can't be good on every subject and well read on every subject. So if you have a David Stockman who comes on, who was a financial advisor to President Reagan, and left the Reagan White House when they started spending went out of control. And even though he's a statist, he's probably like one of the best statists as far as finance goes, spending. He's when you deal with someone like him and he starts spouting out facts and everything, it's got to make some people's heads explode to the point where if they know they can't argue, they're just going to start making ridiculous arguments like, you must like Assad or like SE Cup. I mean, the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen is when Dave had that famous tirade, the one that got shared by everybody basically. But the one where he talked about Yemen, he talked about everything. He basically came down to it. And SE looks at him and goes, I don't agree with a word you just said. And I'm watching this and I'm going, okay, he just laid out 95% facts and 5% opinion. What don't you agree with? Because if you say you don't agree with something, that implies that you're talking about the commentary he made, his opinion, not facts. If somebody's laying out facts, you go, these facts are wrong. You don't go, I don't agree with a word you just said. So, I mean, he said in that, just take one thing, for example, the blockade in Yemen, which is causing a cholera outbreak that could be solved with Gatorade. What, you don't agree with that? How do you not agree with it? I mean, how do you say you don't agree with that? You just say, you either say, yes, that is happening, and it's wrong, or no, that's not happening, you have it all wrong. And she was so, that was the greatest thing about that moment, was she was so shell-shocked she didn't even know what she was saying. You know, and it was beautiful. I mean, these people need to be called out, and they need to be shown for the, you know, I mean, not smart. They're just not smart. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, the crazy thing about it is, you guys are young. Someone like Keith Knight, who's young, is really young. You guys could go on there and destroy these people because you know more than they do, and their heads would spin. You know, and they wouldn't even know what to do. I guarantee they start making references to your age and start saying, so, well, you know, when you get older, you'll start to realize. It's like, that has nothing to do with facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how these people work when you absolutely destroy their, you know, their non-arguments, because most of them, most of them are going to be non-arguments. So.
Yeah, I've gotten that a lot. If I say something, they'll be like, well, you understand when you get older. I'm like, well, I don't know how much older I need to be because I'm already an adult. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I get that a lot.
You're almost 30.
Yeah, so if I'm 30 years old, how much more do I need to be? 50? You know, when you turn 50, then you'll understand. Oh, great, thanks. Another 20 years. Thanks.
And believe me, most of those people just don't. I mean, it's like I said, they're just regurgitating. They go on there with talking points. Even the people who host the shows just have talking points. I mean, they're not going to. I mean, unless it's something like, well, I mean, even if it's something like finance, you know, if somebody went on there, if an Austrian went on there, they'd probably get tongue-tied. You know, I mean, I'd love to see, like, every once in a while. I try not to watch CNN or anything like that, but every once in a while I'll turn it on just because I'm curious and masochistic. And I'll see Krugman on there. Oh. And I'll just be like, God, wouldn't it be awesome if Dave was on this panel? And or Bob Murphy. They wouldn't let Bob Murphy know, because, you know, Krugman knows who Bob is. You know, I mean, so they're not going to allow that to happen. Krugman wouldn't allow that to happen. So. But they might be able to sneak Dave past it, you know.
Well, yeah, they have that. Bob Murphy and Tom Woods have the Contra Krugman podcast specifically to debunk everything that he says.
And also Bob and Krugman have gone back and forth before, writing articles at each other. So, you know, I mean, yeah, he knows who. Yeah, they know who each other are. And I'm sure Krugman doesn't listen to Contra Krugman, but I'm sure, like, he has a staffer or something that'll listen, just so that he can, you know, keep up with what's going on. What people are saying about him.
So crazy. Like, I don't know. He's like a SJW in the finance sense. Like, oh my.
Yeah, he put out a tweet storm the other day that was just pure fucking SJW stuff. I'm just like, what is it? None of this has anything to do with economics. And he was just, and he does that every once in a while, where he'll just be like, he'll go on these tirades, these Trump tirades on Twitter that are no different than, like, you know, the people like that Ed Krasenstein guy who's always, you know who I'm talking about, right? That guy's like a human brainlet meme. He's just like, you know, you just picture the drool coming out, like half of his skull's gone, and you can see it's just empty in there, you know, and he's just, you know, the words are just rolling out of his mouth. Hey, resist. I mean, these are not smart people, but, you know, maybe they are smart. I mean, you see how many fucking retweets and shit he gets? I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, and that just goes to prove how stupid everyone is. You know, it's like, I'm not going to go out there and I'm not going to put myself out there defending Donald Trump, but every once in a while, if I see a tweet where Trump is referenced and someone just puts a blatant lie out there about him, then I'll go in there and just call the lie out. You know, and there's like, oh, well, you're a Trump fan. I'm like, you might want to look at my profile. Yeah, I might want to look at my profile. I just don't like liars. You know, I don't like people who put, you know, who aren't being factual. So, you know, I had someone call. I was, you know, talking about voluntary exchange the other day, and how, you know, a baker, how no business should be forced at the barrel of a gun to do, you know, to accept a customer that they don't want. And people just don't get that. You know, it's like, well, yeah, you'd say that because you were conservative. Do you want to hurt me? You really do. I mean, come on, come on, come on. It's just why do you want to give? Why would you go all the way to the Supreme Court to give this bigot your money? You're basically going to the Supreme Court saying, Supreme Court, rule, go send police with guns so this guy can take our money and I can get our cake that he probably spit in.
It sounds so stupid.
Retarded. They're so fucking retarded. They don't understand. They think that somehow the state can legislate bigotry and prejudice out of people. No, you can't do that. You know, it's like, you know, and I think Dave on Headline News yesterday had somebody that he was having the bakery argument with somebody, and, you know, he said, you know, should a Jewish baker be forced to bake a Nazi cake and everything, you know, bake a cake for a Nazi? And she goes, well, Nazis aren't a protected class. Well, there should be no protected. He said, well, how should a halal restaurant be forced to make bacon and serve bacon? You know, here's one I came up with. You know, I live in Atlanta. There are a lot of beauty supply places that only sell products for black hair. Should white women go in there and start forcing them to sell products for white hair?
Well, that'd be racist.
How would it be? How would it? Yeah. So it's like, I mean, they should be able to. I mean, they're going to make more money if they did. You know, logically, it's like you'd want a beauty supply place that would that would serve everybody, because you could actually make more money and you have a bigger audience. But it's the business owner's prerogative what they want to sell and who they want to sell to. If you open up a business that only sells products for black hair, you're pretty much sending out a message who you want your clientele to be. Right. Is that racist? No, well, if it's in a neighborhood that is predominantly black, it's actually just playing to your audience. It's knowing your clientele.
Right. It's just, who do you want to attract?
Exactly. Basically. Yeah. And I wasn't saying that if a white person, you know, white people come into it. I'm not saying that. I'm just being an asshole, you know. No, that's racist if a white person did that, because that's what would be said.
I know.
But all right. Well, we're gonna have to go ahead and end it. I know that you've been busy today with interviews and all that, so we want to take too much of your time.
Yeah. But, I've had a lot the past few days, but I just wanted to say that something that I'm really proud of and that I'm promoting is that my books are now available on my website, freemanbeyondthewall.com. I have a store on there, /store, and I only accept cryptocurrency. So if you ever thought about getting my books and you don't want to go on Amazon and spend the money and spend the shipping, it's flat rate price. I accept 8 different kinds of crypto, 8 different coins. And I encourage anybody who would have a store, especially an e-store. It's very easy to set it up for, especially if you're already taking payments. You just have to go to like a company like Coin Payments and get their widget, and you could start accepting it for cryptocurrency. And any merchant out there, just let's start trading in crypto. Let's start trading in crypto as much as possible, and I think that'd be I think that's a good start towards really trying to stick it to the state. You know, I'm going to be going to New Hampshire in February. I know that's far off and everything, but I was asked to speak at this year's Liberty Forum, next year's Liberty Forum, and I look forward to it because it's in Manchester, and from what I understand, like almost every store in the whole city accepts crypto. So it's, you know, I look, you know, I don't know of a store down here at all that accepts crypto, but you know, I look forward to being in a city that anywhere I go, I'd be able to just put my QR code up and you know, scan their QR code and just send them some money so that we can sidestep that shit coin, the US dollar, and try and do everything we can to, you know, break its power. So anyone who has an e-store out there, start accepting crypto. Crypto people will come out of the woodwork to buy your stuff if you sell it for crypto.
And that was a coin store, right?
It's called coinpayments.com or it's coinpayments.net. I can't remember right now. But yeah, it's you basically whatever your software is, whatever platform you're building upon, they have a widget for it's coinpayments.net. They have a widget for you. You'll just plug it into your the theme of your website and set up a store. If you're like if you're in WordPress, you go like WooCommerce, and then Coin Payments has a WooCommerce, and you just put it in there. And if you already have something existing, you might have to do some playing around with it and everything. But Vin Armani got on the phone. I gave Vin Armani the I made him an admin. He went in there in about an hour. We got everything figured out, and you know, so like overnight that night, I sold. We got that done around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night Eastern time, and like at 5 o'clock in the morning, the next day, I had my first order in crypto. So yeah, it's cool because think about it too. Someone pays you in crypto, and in the next few days, the market goes up. If they paid you $15, that can turn into $18. So, so yeah, you know, so, yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, check that out. And like I said, not only to hawk my own stuff, but anyone out there who's selling stuff on the internet, please accept crypto. Amazon will do it eventually. I've heard that they bought domains Amazon Ethereum and Amazon Bitcoin.com. So hopefully that'll be coming soon.
And that's freemanbeyondthewall.com, correct?
freemanbeyondthewall.com. My podcasts are there. Well, link to my podcasts are there. I put them on a new server, and /store. You can find the store on there, and it's a real easy checkout. I mean, I've actually done the checkout to the point where I would pay, and it was like under a minute. So it's real simple, and the Coin Payments gets everything done really quick. All the authorizations on the transaction. What's the word I'm looking for? I suck. I want to go to bed. I want to go to bed so bad. But all the confirmations are done rather quickly. So within like 15 to 20 minutes, Coin Payments will get back to you and say, yeah, everything's good. You just wait for shipping now. And I've been shipping pretty much the next day if someone orders something. So, but yeah, please, everybody start selling everything in crypto. Start paying your debts between each other in crypto too. Someone owes you money. If someone owes you money, demand crypto.
We'll definitely have to do that for our website because we just have a new website that we launched. So
yeah,
we're definitely
on there.
Yeah, check it out. If you wanna DM me everything, I'll give you the links to the website and help you to the website for coinpayments.net. it takes a little getting used to find certain things on it, but I'll help you get through it as much as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch with that. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll let you go to bed now.
Thanks a lot, guys. You take care. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
All right.